Talk Live with Rodney Grimes. People to people, power to power, positive thinking people. Yes, with Sir Rod and Lady Z. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about we. In God we trust. Positive thinking people. Positive thinking people. Positive thinking people. Every Monday night, every Wednesday night, every Friday night, every Monday night, every Wednesday night, every Friday night, every Monday night. You know what I said? This is the podcast. I am so excited again to come to you and let you know that you have a voice and a choice. Did you hear what I just said? You have a voice and a choice. Now, and that's why I got this man in here with me today, Mr. Fred Hill. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
I am
Thank you.
so glad to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back. You was in here with us the other day on
Yes.
Man in the Mirror.
Yes.
That was a real powerful program.
Yes, it was.
But
Yes,
I realized that you had a lot to talk about and a lot to say.
all right.
So I want these people to get a chance to really get to know you.
Yes.
So as you say, let's meet Fred Hill.
That's right.
Tell them a little bit about yourself.
I am a 25-year successful business owner in Washington, D.C. I am a veteran. I'm a father and grandfather. But in the business area, I have hired over 500 D.C. residents. 180 of them are returning citizens. And quite frankly, I got sick and tired of watching our government leaders, the people that we expect or we trust to protect our interests, not doing what they were supposed to do. And decided that it was time that I get in, take the skill and the knowledge, the experience, and the courage that I carry to make a big positive difference for the people in the city. I've watched how the low and no income were, of course, stepped on, but now they've stepped into middle class, the hardworking people in the city, and they've mismanaged what I call the investors' dollars repeatedly, year after year. And I'm gonna go into detail on some of those tonight. So this is what made me see, recognize that in order to fix things, you first got to understand what's broken,
Okay.
and then you got to understand how it broke. Because if you go to the mechanic shop and you tell them you think you need a new tire, but you need an oil change, they're just gonna put the tire on there because that's what you asked for.
Right.
And if we don't watch and monitor and manage some of the actions and decisions that people are being made, they'll do what they want to do instead of what you need them to do. So these things that really got to the center of me when I talk about mismanagement is the mismanagement of the dollars and the trust. Our hardworking people in this city, not only voters, but people that live here, that travel through the city, have come to Washington to some to make homes and some to work. And when we've watched how sometimes our streets are not dealt with properly through DDOT, we've watched how agencies have mismanaged money, leaving only the council and the mayor's office to ask us to pay for their mess ups. And I'm going to get into detail on that as well. But the biggest challenge that we have right now in the district is public safety. Many people not understanding that public safety has more to do than just with the police department, although that's a big part. But public safety also includes housing, it includes education, it includes transportation, and these different sectors that are not being considered are what's leading us into the wrong direction right now. And I think because this is the year more people have come to understand that this is a time, if any, for us to get involved in voting, for us to get involved in holding people accountable and making sure that they all understand. For those that don't know, again, my name is Fred Hill. I am running for city council at large. I am an independent, which means that anyone, Republican, Democrat, or other minority party can still vote for me. Um, I am also number 3 on the ballot, and the ballots just went out on the 3rd, a couple of days ago, so people should start seeing those come in. The early drop boxes will open up on the 14th, and people can begin to deposit their their ballots into those drop boxes. There are 2 seats that are available. Right now, 1 seat is held by a Democrat. And the thing that most people need to understand is that with the race as critical as it is this time, those 2 seats could go to an independent, one independent by law, or a minority party. 2 independents could actually win both of these seats. And I outline for the listeners why I believe that I am the best choice, the first choice to make the difference for people here in the district.
That's amazing that you put yourself in a position to be able to really get out and make a change for the DMV. And when I say the DMV, because what happens in the district also affects other areas
Mhm.
outside as well. What is it that really make you different from the other candidates?
Number one, I'm not a politician. I'm a business owner, as I said, and I've come to understand um, execution and planning quite a bit different than what other people uh, seem to move at. Government tends to move on a knee jerk reaction. There's a problem, and then you do something. There's no foresight. And as a business owner, we have to be, we have to have an eye to look down the road quite often, because we want to head off those things that can force that business to go to the left or right. But when we talk about items like public safety, as I said, um, I am the only candidate right now that recognizes that our police, and speaks specifically as to what I'm going to do, that recognizes that our police department, that had been defunded as a decision made by 13 council members, put this city in a horrible position of public safety. It sent this city into a downward spiral. And right now we're living with uh, that decision made by those who did not have any understanding of what they did. I have not heard one of them apologize, say that they were sorry, say that they wish they had made another choice. There may have been one that made that comment, but it's too late. And so, where was your thought process beforehand? And they just not exercise that. So, we have been forced to live with decisions that are being made by other people that put our lives in jeopardy. Um, right now, our kids are scared to walk to school.
Mm,
They're scared to be in school, and they're scared to walk home.
mhm.
Parents don't want their children to be outside playing out of the fear of being one accidentally shot or caught by a stray bullet. Um, some of the things that go on that could have been fixed and still can be fixed right now is, first, understanding that there should be a call from the council to host a meeting, an emergency meeting, and reallocate the funding that they took from the police back to the police. The money that they pulled away to put into the violence interrupter program was not a smart move. The violence interrupter program does have a place, but it's a long term fix. It's not immediate. Um, we have a pretty acute problem when it comes to uh, this idea of where's the authority in the community. I've never seen anyone dial love, peace, or understanding, or violence interrupter when they get in trouble, but everybody dials 911.
Right.
And when they dial 911, they're looking for someone who can bring calm to the situation, remove the threat, if you will, and make sure that it's minimized and not to restart again. Some of the other candidates right now call for more money to be invested into uh, violence interrupted programs. I do not. I think that the investment in the beginning was wrong because it was no proof. There have been no audits that prove that that program is working. And we have some on the council who have decided that they're going to go down that road even further. I brought some notes that I wanted to share with you because this is data that no one can refuse. Today is Coffee with the Cop Day across the country. In Washington, D.C., we have several different precincts that were in Starbucks coffee shops or one close to their station. And I had a chance to meet with them throughout the day. Um, it was really enlightening to listen to what their needs would be. You know, see, some people come in and tell them, like our council told them, you can run this with less money.
Mhm.
But they didn't listen to what I believe the chief and others told them that they needed. But I had a chance to listen, and what I had called for was that all police, all fire emergency staff, all of our public school staff, which includes the teachers, the janitors, and the cooks, and our sanitation workers, those four categories, to make sure that they get a 30% pay raise. And everybody lost their mind. This is crazy. It's pie in the sky. Well, it's pie in the sky if you're used to getting a 2%, 4%, or 12% raise over 4 years. That's what we typically see. But it doesn't keep up with the cost of living.
Right.
You know, a gallon of milk in some places is more than a gallon of gas.
Yeah.
And if you're not keeping up with that, you're robbing people of the quality of life.
Yeah.
Um, and so I call for that. But here's what the officers shared with me today. They said, I like the idea of the 30% raise, but where did you come up with that? I said, because right now there's a program to hire new officers. You get a $20,000 signing bonus, and that takes you from 65,000 to 85,000 for the new officers. But what about the officer that got hired last year and the year before that? And that just created a further demoralization of our officers because they said, man, the new guy's making more money than me. And so as talking to these officers, we found out that this is not about COVID. This happened all before COVID came about. But what we're seeing now is that they cannot keep even the new officers because they stay for a few months and then they disappear.
Mm.
Um, and I'm still confirming of when they received the 20,000. I thought at one point it was a year, but now I'm hearing today that it could have been as early as 3 months. So you haven't even finished your training and you're getting the signing bonus money. So again, that has to be confirmed. But the further slap in the face is that we have officers who feel even less protected, less cared for, less respected, because there are people that are making decisions that are not including what they need. So we have depleted ranks, delayed deployment comes from that. Right now, some of the officers or some of the stations report that when a new call comes in, you might only have one or two officers to respond. So that has a delay in getting to the next calls that come in after that. What's worse is that officers are working an extended period of time. They're working longer hours. And with the type of work that they're doing, being pushed one more second further, it's a powder keg. We're putting them and the public in an unsafe position. And so we've got to do something better. And that's where I say the idea that we can only train officers within 6 months needs to be revised. Um, as a veteran, I helped deploy 17,000 troops, 14,000 troops, 10,000 troops in 2-3 days. So don't tell me that we can't train officers faster than 6 months.
Right.
We can do it in 3 months.
Yes.
We just need resources.
And I'm loving it that a lot of times is people talking about different situations, and there goes to the streets.
Yes.
But you go into the problem,
Yes.
and that's what's important. And I like it that you were speaking, and you go speak to even the officers, because you got to realize, even if you go into the individuals who's trying to help to protect us, if you treat them good and give them a purpose to, really be excited about what they're doing, they're gonna
Mhm.
do a better job. The fact that I listened to you when you was on the other program, but you go to the people,
Yes.
and that's what's amazing. And I like that. And so, how do you feel? How do you feel when the people come to you and want to tell you the problems? How do you feel about that?
I've learned that of all my years in successful business, the only way I got there is I listened.
Okay.
You got to have an ear to listen. You can't come in with all the answers because no one has all the answers.
Right.
And the only way that we create good, sound, and safe resolve is that we listen. Again, remember in the beginning, I said you first got to know how it broke and then what broke.
Right.
And the only way you can do that is by analyzing.
Right.
You don't just come over and say, "Oh yeah, it's the hood," but you've gotta listen. And in listening to these officers today, I got from them some things that we could still do in this city that would increase the desire for more people to want to be officers. I learned that right now we have only about 1,000 officers that live in the district. Now, people need to understand how important that number is, because when we talk about an emergency arising, um, whatever it may be, January the 6th, all the way down, and we've got an emergency call for officers to report. If they've got to come from St. Mary's County, um, Boonesboro, I talked to some West Virginia. These are how far people are living because they cannot afford to live in the district. And these are the teams of people that we need here. They are on the ground for us. So the city has got to do, in my opinion, a better job of creating opportunity for officers, for our school teachers, public school staff, for our fire emergency staff, and our sanitation workers. And so here's something that I propose. With MPD only having roughly 1,000 officers here, how about we do no income tax? How about we do no real property tax? If you don't want to give them a 30% pay raise, how about you say for the 1,000 people, we got over 700,000 people live in this city. If it's only 1,000 that we want to give the benefit of being a district resident, how about we take away the taxes? It's only 1,000 people. And when we do that, we're going to create a desire for others to want to take that same benefit.
Yeah.
As I was talking to some of the officers today, and the calculators were rolling as we were talking, and they said, "Man, you know what I could do with an extra $1,000 right now? I could afford to live in the city." And some that already have a home said, "You know what? I could get something for my kids. I could get the boat I always wanted, or something like that." These are things that make a job or a career worth having.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it is just my opinion that we don't have an innovative mind leading our government right now. We have people who have decided it's going to be my way or the highway.
Mm.
Um, so we talked about how the city needs to refund our police department. Our disciplinary process for officers requires reform with respect to disclosure to the public. We have to talk about this because most recently there's been the discussion of other officers that may have acted improperly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my position is simply this: if there are a few bad apples, you deal with the bad apples. And you don't throw the whole bag away because you got a few bad ones. You save the seeds so you can plant anew.
Come on.
But you have to deal with those few and understand that the majority are not doing that. It's people in the community that when they see one officer do bad, they assume that all the rest of them are doing the same thing. Well, what about your kids? If you look at your children, do you think of your children the same way? And because you know your children, you have to give light to these professionals and give them the opportunity to show you who they are. But this again leaves the officers to be further demoralized, uh, untrusted. And that's a very, very difficult environment to work in, when we know that unjustly there's someone who doesn't want to trust that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm the professional. I know what is needed to bring this situation to calm. So it makes things very, very unsafe. So what are those other areas of public safety? It lends to, as I said, unsafe schools, discrepancies in how we address the problems in different areas of the city, unsafe housing, unsafe streets, unsafe public facilities, jails, detention centers, recreation centers, etc. Failed mental health systems and facilities are another part of public safety. I was talking to one of the, was in a forum last night, and it was a DC rap recovery forum. Wonderful group of people shared some of their experiences, about how they are voters too, but people still look at them substandardly. They still judge them improperly, and there has to be a new awakening of where do you lie? You know, it's a saying from many years ago: "He who cast the first stone is not the one that should be doing this," because everyone has fallen short, right? So if that's where we're living, no one should be pointing a finger unless you're pointing a finger down to help somebody up.
Yeah.
You
How
know
about that?
that's quite simple there. Um, Another hot topic is the education. When we talk about education, for years I've been saying to this council and to the mayor's office that we need to bring the vocational ed back into our public school system. And it needs to be in our public school system because some of these kids cannot travel past a stop sign in their neighborhood for the fear of some kind of gun violence or retaliation for who they are, where they live.
Right.
Uh, Albeit ridiculous, it's still true and it happens. But if we put the trades back into our public school system,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to create the opportunity of where we potentially regain the interest of the young people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a benefactor of the trades. I didn't like English, math, or geography, but I loved auto mechanics. And in order for me to participate in the auto mechanics class, I had to go through those other three. After getting involved, I found out that I needed English so that I could communicate with
Right.
my potential customer of the car I was going to be working on. I needed math so I could count that
Captain
money.
Money. Yeah.
I needed geography so I could find out where they were.
Right.
But I began to see that the world is much larger, and then I decided to go into the United States Air Force, which took me on travel to all seven continents, and I began to see other cultures and the way people live. And it was quite a bit different than what I experienced here in the States. But that education is what introduced me into that line of new way of life, new way of looking at things. Um, right now, we have masons, masonry, we have HVAC techs, we have plumbers, electricians, roofers. These are building trades, but we also have IT professionals. We have barbers, we have cosmetologists. All of these careers, many of them, if you are an entrepreneur, bring in you greater than six figures. And that's a pretty comfortable living, even though a lot of it gets sucked up now because of the cost of living. But years ago, these were the trades that helped um, parents and grandparents put their children through college.
Mm-hmm.
These modest careers helped them put their kids through school. And many of them that were able to go to college hadn't gone themselves, but they were able to do that for their children. Right now, I believe that vocational training can be the biggest step this city can make in curbing the violence. Again, if you recapture the interest of our young and show them that there's a real possibility, there's a dream you can have, and here's how you get to it. That it's not just willy nilly; it is real.
Mm-hmm.
We can show them uh, the steps that they can take to make it reality. And so in our school system right now, we have, in the government, I should say, with our school system, that doesn't make it fair or desirable is number one, we have a rating of the DC public school system across the country, measured across the country, from 41 to 49 out of 50 states, depending on which model you look at. That's sad to be the nation's capital and to be rated that low for education. But when you look at the problems that exist in the school, starting with our teachers not being compensated fairly, um, or any of the other staff, then you look at teachers do not have what they need to conduct the classes. So you have parents that are now carrying the burden for the DC public school system with helping them to put the needs of the supplies in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to the children, it's not fair to the teachers, nor is it fair to the parents. So that's another problem that we have. In no way, with us having a $20 billion budget, should a parent have to go out and help supply the classroom for their child. Now, here's another way to look at this too. Um, and until I said it, a lot of people hadn't recognized it, but got pretty warm afterwards. I view every taxpayer in this city as an investor. Every check, everything you purchase collects some of your tax money. So your tax dollars are being grabbed by the city with your expectation of a return on that investment to provide services that's going to help make your quality of life better. But when you start seeing that you're not getting your investment worth, you start to ask questions, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now. They're saying to our leaders, our so-called leaders, why is there another tax when I'm already paying for this and you didn't do what you were supposed to do the first time?
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at education, some of the things that are inequitable is the access to choices in college prep. We have in other states, just right around us right now, Virginia is doing this. The young are having the opportunity to start college classes in high school.
Right.
This puts them in a position that when they are coming out, they're already ready. They already qualify with the training that they have to take an above living wage job, career, or start their own business. And that's part of the missing link. We don't have that showing to our children. They will showcase a few kids. Those are the ones that someone took under their wing. But the wing needs to be big enough to pull all of the kids in.
I'm going to ask you a question. Once you're elected, how will it be that you can be able to stay focused in these areas to be able to address these things that you're talking about?
Coming in the door this is my work.
Okay.
Now, for those who don't understand, this is the way things are presented. The council members are presenting them to the rest of the council. But it is only the council chair that can actually put it up for a vote. And what I have witnessed over the last several years is that when it comes to vocational ed that's been presented numerous occasions, the chair hasn't put it up for a vote. So if one person or four people want it up for a vote, if the chair doesn't do it, it doesn't happen. It is only based on that schedule. So this again is where it's important for the voters to understand and know why they have not received or why they have not experienced the benefits of being a DC resident. When there are things that make sense to you, that make sense to a lot of other people in your community, in your home, and it's not being answered. Now's the time for you to make adjustments with that. When the elected officials are not doing what they're supposed to do, this is your opportunity to do that. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on. You have more than just the opportunity of voting, but now's the time to really make that change on it. And so when I go in, I'm going in with the understanding of these are the things that we need to look at right now. This to me, this is emergency. This is right now. This is not 2025. This is not another term down the road. These are things that we need to be working on right now if we want to see a 2025. And I'll get into housing too, because that's something that's going to wake some people up. But with education, if we don't start now capturing our young's attention, get the interest of them involved in how are we going to make life better for them? How are we
Right.
going to include them?
Yes.
So many of them feel excluded.
Included.
They don't trust an adult.
I'm sitting here listening to you, and this is one, and I'm so glad that you said that, because I'm sitting over here saying, what about the kids? I
Yeah.
mean, we got to adults that now we're gonna keep it real, okay?
Yeah.
We got a lot of individuals who raising children who came up in a bad time, and they didn't get raised properly themselves.
And pass it right on to the kids.
And pass it right on to the kids. So now having individuals like yourself who understand some of these issues, it's imperative that the children feel like they are part of it. So that's what I liked about what you was talking about when you were saying in the school system, you start preparing them for college.
Yes.
You let them see that there's a purpose and there's an opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And let them know that they have a voice and a part of that.
And for those that don't want to go to college, because not everybody wants to,
Right.
we have those trained in those vocational ed classes that can prepare them to come right out of high school and gain employment.
Yeah, and I know you got some notes. I'm messing with you a little bit because I want these people to know you as how you got to this position. So if one of the young individuals who, a lot of times when we talk in politics, the young people get away, they don't want to pay attention.
Yeah.
But what got you to be able to get to this point? Because the young person got to get where you are today.
Yeah.
What got you to that?
I watched the number of people that worked for me over the years. And as I began to get more intimate with the working staff, caring about their families, meeting their families, knowing who they are, seeing them in the grocery store, seeing them in daily travels, and then the little kids say, I know him. Then you begin to learn families. But as you begin to learn families, you also begin to learn their struggles.
Okay.
And so as one of the things that I started about 7 years ago is I began to take some of my money and I would go out and purchase a van or truckload of food and take them to those most needy, those grandmothers I know couldn't go out and go to the grocery store when they wanted to, those single parents that were having struggles, and take them a box of foods, healthy food that I know that they could use. And this started with just, as I said, a few, maybe 10, 15 families every Sunday. Well, it grew because we gained the attention of other partners and said, I want to help do that.
Right.
And what can I do? And I said, well, I'd like to fill this van up. And we met different suppliers. Right now we have a supplier called Black Rose Community Garden. Love her to death. Every Sunday now, because of her involvement, we're able to pack the van to the rooftop, 50, 60 cases of food. And we go around to different communities every Sunday for the last 7 years. And we be a blessing to other people who really didn't know. Now, here's the thing. We started out helping people who we knew were challenged. Right. But because of COVID, we have been introduced into middle class people who understand that a gallon of milk costs more than a gallon of gas. And that hurt. So these same people are now competing because that food that's free, I want to get some of that too.
Yeah.
And in some case, I was in the grocery store the other day and it blew my mind. A lady was in front of me with 4 bags and she spent $112. And she said to me, young fella, I remember when I could come in here with $112 and my husband and my son had to push the other 2 carts. Not no more.
Yeah.
But these are things that make life real. And that why I say for the working group in our city, we need to do something special for them. But on the lines of on education, this is a special part because education should lead to employment.
Right. Okay.
Employment should lead to a career, and career could potentially lead to entrepreneurship. I push that because that was my life walk. Um, when you talk about what have I said to children when they look at me now, those who watched me grow a little bit, um, or the parents may have shared that you need to talk to Mr. Hill if you want to start a business. He can
Right.
share the ins and outs. These are the things, these are the conversations that we need to be having with our young to show them that it is really
It's
possible.
possible.
It's
It's a
real.
part of
It's
reality.
real. But we've got to make sure that everything is lined up best as we can in our favor to make it real.
But that is actually when people like yourself is in office and doing the leadership things that we put them in, that they can see that this is really something that is right there at their fingertips. And for the young people, I keep thinking about the young people because they're in so much trouble right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And I just, again, from some of your conversation, I liked the fact that you went to the police. You said something. I'm gonna hold on to it.
mhm,
You remember when you said that if a lot of times they just say the problem is in the hood.
yeah,
Let me tell you what I thought about when you said that. I thought about a car. And you said that there's in this situation, you got to know what caused the problem
yeah,
so that you can fix the problem and address the problem, right?
exactly.
Well, we talk about the hood.
Mhm.
What's under the hood?
That's right.
It's
That's right.
it's something that, right?
That's
And
right.
when you said that, I was like, when talking about, you said you was talking about the police,
Yes.
you talking about education,
Yeah.
you talking about helping people and feeding people, you coming into the people not just to get an office
Yeah.
to sit in the desk and say, look, I'm holding this position,
Yeah.
but you're actually getting in and being a part of the solution.
We have to right now recognize that uh, if we don't take that seat, I'll be the only person on the council once I go in that has been or is a business owner. So how in the world could you expect any of them to understand what a small business owner goes through? Meeting payroll, keeping operating costs going, collections, contracts. They don't understand that.
Even the struggle.
They don't understand that. There's no one that I'm running against right now that even understands that. You'll hear Kenya McDuffie say, "Yeah, but you came in my office for help, and I'm still waiting for it. I'm still waiting for it." It was a photo op opportunity for him or others to come up whenever there's a challenge that I presented. But then I began to learn, how do I be more effective without them? If they're not doing anything anyway, let me find out what I need to do. And that's what pushed me to where I am today. Let me get on the inside and fix this because
Yeah.
that's where the problem is.
Right.
If there was a guardian to make sure that small businesses were really included in the local contract opportunities, we wouldn't see some 2,000 small businesses in the city with only 5% of them working on contracts in the city. The same five.
Mm.
The same five. Every year you can see the same groups of small 5 through 10 small businesses on the massive billions of dollars that come through this city. When the small businesses of the city are the ones that hire everyone that lives in the city, we bring that opportunity. It is. It was very rewarding for me to see um, staff come from prison, never had a job 2 years before they met me, and then within a year, go get their own apartment, buy their own car, put their own kids through school, the choice of they want, pick out their health insurance
Mhm.
that they wanted. That's real. And what we would talk about is that this is called quality of life. You can have you can have the dreams um, that you know that are saying you can have a special kind of car or live in a special kind of house, but it's steps. It's not overnight, it's steps. And if we show you that there's steps you can take, we talked about financial literacy. How do you save toward tomorrow? How do you build toward tomorrow? It's not if I show you every day saving a nickel or multiplying a nickel every day could help you, and this is what we did with some of our staff, could help you afford a vacation at the end of the year. And all you did was the same thing every day, and it wasn't a penalty on your life. They were blown away with how much money you could save. Then you take some of that money and you find an investment that you can put it in. And as you're working over here, the investment is working over there for you. And pretty soon you're not working as hard at the end of the day. You're able to reinvest into other things, real estate, business, whatever you can do with those things. But you got to have the education, you got to have the knowledge in order to do that. And right now, I believe we don't have enough of that in our school system. Um, when I was in the military, I went to Asian countries and I was introduced to 4-year-old children who had to balance the checkbook of the household or not get food. That was real.
And I know because I experienced it too.
I couldn't believe it. I thought it was harsh, but they learned. And this is why so many other people in different countries are more advanced than we are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the Black and brown communities in the city, there's really not enough investment from the people that can make the difference.
Right.
And we see it right now today. We must also re-examine parental responsibility. Does the family need social services? Can the family be reunited when we're talking about, this is on juvenile justice, and do the parents or the guardians want the child to return to home? We point out this because when we talk about the young, and we talked about some of the problems that exist in the community, when little Tommy or Bobby or Susie or Sharon goes out here and does something that's not right, and they get tangled up into the juvenile justice system, where is the parent in this process? Is that a parent that's just as detached before they got involved? Or is that a parent that cannot control the situation, afraid to reach out to whomever, MPD, violence interrupters, the behavioral health organizations, and say, I need some help? And oftentimes we find out that is what's going on in homes where children are running the homes right now. I made a comment a few weeks back where I called for a prison term of 50 years. And it was specifically to a particular case where a 15-year-old ultimately killed his grandmother. His mother and father were already gone, but he ultimately killed his grandmother because she wouldn't give him the keys to the car. Here's someone who wouldn't listen, was very disruptive. There was a noted behavior problem with other family members where they didn't want to come around. And it got so bad where this grandmother was afraid to let him in the house. And then the city would come back and say, those agencies would come back and say, well, you know, if you don't let him come back in the home, then he's going to be this, that, and the other. And she didn't want to see that. So she gave him one more shot. This is an individual that had a lot of things that were going wrong, but did not have the support mechanisms in place to head it off before it got really, really bad. And there was a gun involved. And in the district, there is a measurement of 2 to 45 years for possession of an illegal gun, just the possession. In the act of a crime, of course, those times go up. But as a juvenile, what we've seen happen is those individuals less than 18 years old can start their life over again. And my question is, what about the family that lost a loved one?
Right. Yeah.
What about the innocent child that was sitting in his room playing a video game and that stray bullet came in there
Right.
and took his life or her
Yeah.
life? What is the penalty? And I called for the juvenile justice reform to include that youngster to be charged as an adult. and let the courts then decide how long it's going to have to be. And some people uh, didn't take it well because they thought that I'm just saying lock every youngster up. And no, that's not what I'm saying. In that particular case, I don't think that this person, this youngster, should have been given the opportunity to only go to prison for 3 years. And they're back out right now. They're back out. So, how does that feel for everyone else? And this is part of where we need to have an understanding. Many people don't know our attorney general deals with the juveniles, but the federal system deals with our adults. And when the sentences are handed down, excuse me, they come from the AG or they come from the federal system. Our criminal justice system is divided between the federal and local prosecution, as I said, and I gave up the division there. Um, and now I want to move to housing. This is the part where we started off with when we were talking with the MPD officers, our school teachers, our cooks, the janitors, sanitation workers, and our fire emergency staff. Housing violations are not taken seriously. Over the last, I'm going to say 6-7 years. For those that don't know, I'm a 30-year housing inspector. I'm a 30-year lead-based paint risk assessor, mold inspector and remediator, and asbestos inspector. The knowledge of what it takes to create what we call an environmentally safe home. And after doing that for so long, it blew me away that I would go into market rate homes, not low and no income. Low and no income, I saw a lot of it, and it's very unfair. But when I started going into market rate homes like the rental property Marbury Plaza, just over there Sunday, and to see the conditions that some of our market rate residents are living in is unbelievable. No amenities such as the laundry facilities in the building. I saw people having to take their clothes, put them in a car, and go to the laundromat. However, they're still paying their full rent and not getting all the amenities. They had no heat and not getting, and still paying their full rent. No AC and still paying their full rent. Having to deal with pets that defecate in the elevators or in the hallways, and they still pay their full rent. And it's not as easy as people may think for one to just pick up and move, because everywhere in the city is extremely high. And that's not housing justice. That's unaffordable. That's unacceptable. And we have a few of the people who are the three incumbents right now who are on the housing committee, and I'll get into that in a minute, that have been notified of these violations and have done absolutely nothing. The fines and the penalties must be reevaluated. If we have slumlords, and let's call them what they are, if we have slumlords or people who don't care to deliver what people are paying for, because keep in mind, even if they are low and no income, the city is making up the subsidy, still paying them the full rate. Yet that low, no income person is afraid to speak up because they're going to get put out.
Right.
You see? And that's a very unfair position to put someone in.
Being in the position as one of the council members, so will they be able to come to you directly?
Absolutely. This is a citywide position at large.
Okay.
It's a citywide position, not one particular ward. And I welcome the things, especially that I know about. It's simple. It's easy. I can walk in there as I did the other day, and I can look at the issues that should not have taken as long as they did to fix it. The method in which they are fixing them is really not right. But when we don't have people who are knowledgeable managing a situation, it's just like giving somebody a checkbook to our $20 billion budget that can't manage their own checkbook. They can't even keep their own finances straight. So they'll go out here on a construction project and sign off on a modification agreement or a change order for another $1 million and not raise a question because they don't know what to raise. And so these are things of mismanagement that continue to keep going on because people don't know. And then they entrust those who really don't know. When we look at returning displaced residents to prior place of residence, it's a disaster. The process must be revamped. Immigration challenges, services, and housing. And then we want to get into this piece here called the need for change. 3 incumbent council members are running to claim 2 at-large council seats, as I was telling you in the beginning. All 3 are on the housing committee. Anita Bonds is the chair. Alyssa Silverman and Kenya McDuffie both are on that housing committee. All 3 of them have received calls from me to their offices about the issues I've seen over the last 6 years. I'm still waiting on return phone calls. Those residents are still waiting on return phone calls. And the reason that I believe none of them can say anything is because they're friends that own or that management company or that property, and they are not going to bite the hand that feeds them, that investor that puts money into their coffers, right? We see it all the time. It doesn't make sense that you would have someone living below the standards and that owner still receive full payment. As I said, Ms. Bonds is the chair. She's also the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs, Subcommittee on Redistricting, and she is an at-large council member. But I've heard people say over and over again that she will push things off. If you go to her and the first thing she says is, has you talked to your council member? Well, if you're an at-large council member, you should be able to help any and everybody. Mm-hmm. Now, that is not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pass the buck. Mrs. Silverman is the chair of the Labor and Workforce Development Committee. She's on the Committee of Human Services. She's on the Committee of Housing and Executive Administration, chairperson on the Subcommittee on Redistricting, and she is an at-large council member. Mr. McDuffie is the chair of the Business and Economic Development Committee. He's on the Committee of Housing and Executive Administration. He's on the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs, Committee on Transportation and the Environment, and he is a council member for Ward 5. He is the chair pro tempore and what that means is if Phil Mendelson, for any reason, is not able to be in that seat, he would be the next chair of the council. He would be the next chair of the council. And what disturbs me about this particular candidate, and that most people don't understand or know this, is that, as I said before, he ran for, or he is the Ward 5 council member. He's been there for 10 years. In Ward 5, they still have some of the same issues they had when he started. The people in Bloomingdale still have floods every year. O Street still has a known open-air drug market. And as I was talking to some of the officers today, I said, when people say it's your fault that it's still there, I have to remember that they've been stripped of some of their abilities. They can't chase people. So if it's a stolen car, they're not supposed to go after them. They can't chase people on four-wheelers that are illegal on our streets. These are things that our government has allowed to be a nuisance, but will come and mess with you and I because we got a tail light out. Right. And we're on the way to work. But what was more disturbing about Mr. McDuffie is that when he decided he was going to run for the AG seat, he did not qualify. And he knew he did not qualify. And he misled a lot of people in this city, even those who support him. Because there's no way in the world I'm going to know that all of them know that he didn't qualify and they got behind him like they did. But he took it even further when he began to challenge that decision that was made that he didn't qualify, go to court, and then, of course, they shut it down there as well. But what people really didn't know is that this man went to Phil Mendelssohn, who was the chair, a year prior and asked for a special hearing so that he could modify the requirements to become an AG. Now, what's even more disturbing is that to become qualified, all he had to do as an attorney was write 2 wills and 1 contract. 2 wills and 1 contract. He could have did that with a family member and been qualified to at least run. I'm not going to say he would have been qualified to be an AG, but to at least run. When people come to understand that this level of laziness is carried out by someone who we would expect to be a leader, then they ought to be really upset, especially the people that support him, because I bet many of them didn't know that's what he was doing. Alyssa Silverman is championed on the Family Medical Leave Act. It's a good piece of legislation that was supposed to help people who were out, let's say, for a pregnancy, extended period of time, and they had at one point 6 weeks. Now they have 12 weeks. But this same project or act has alienated 94,000 DC residents because their spouse works in Maryland. But in Maryland, if you're a DC government employee, you get it. You can get the support. You can get the benefit of this act. And they still have made no announcement that it needs to be looked at again. See, you got to be open to the people. Okay, you know what, folks? We messed up.
Right.
But let's take a look at it and see if we can fix this.
And you got to go to the people.
That's being real.
Yeah. And it's a point of just saying, this is the situation. These are the problems. We know, we accept responsibility.
We tried.
Yeah.
You know, we was trying to make life better for some people. And we somehow, this part got, but you can trust and believe we're going to be on it.
Right.
That's being real. That's showing our young that it's okay that if you make
mistakes, you can correct them.
But it's better that you get right on it to fix it. You know.
We got about, I think we got about 5 minutes left.
All right.
And 3 minutes actually. And I would just, again, I want you to know that, first of all, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I want also everyone out there to know this is the People Podcast. And you have the same opportunity that Mr. Fred Hill had to come out and speak your piece.
Mm-hmm.
He made that choice. And I admire you for that, because that shows that you know, you're not afraid to speak your truth.
That's right. That's right.
And you coming to the people. And so at all platforms.
Yes.
And so, you know, kudos to you, you for that. I'm just excited about everything that I've heard you talk about on Man in the Mirror, mm-hmm. and on this podcast as well with People to People. And I'm just excited.
Thank you so much for
you kind of, I mean, honestly, I'm listening to you, and I didn't mean to use the word kind of. You did give me a sense of hope that there's still some people that really, really care about the process and making a difference. And you spoke about the police, you spoke about housing, you spoke about the food, you talked about the education, you talked about all the things that really, really matter. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need. And so again, if they want to get a little more information about you and try to follow up, and how would they go about that?
You can go on my website. It's Fred Hill, 4, counselatlarge.com. And that's where we will post the upcoming events. I will tell you that this week coming is going to be loaded with debates and forums. So you can go to my Facebook page, Fred Hill, or either Fred Hill for Counsel at Large or Fred Hill at Large. All of these will have the upcoming forums. And that's the first way. The other way is that you can follow. You can, when you log on to the Facebook page, friend me, and I will make sure that you have the notice. I am number 3 on the ballot. Again, I am an independent, and I am not beholden to any developer, contractor, or anyone else in the city except for the people.
Well, y'all heard Mr. Fred, y'all heard Mr. Hill. He came to you. He was open. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you just coming to the platform. That makes a big difference when people see that you are not afraid to speak your truth directly to them. And so I wish you luck.
Thank you.
And I don't even want to call it luck. I just want to see many people be blessed with people in office that really care.
Yes.
And to make a difference. I appreciate
Thank
you
you
for
so
coming
much.
on. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure. Everybody to just tune in. It was People to People with Rodney Grimes. Hey, I had you come in and meet Mr. Fred here.
Positive thinking people.
He was speaking some real powerful stuff.
Positive thinking people. Positive thinking people. Every Monday night. Every Wednesday night. Every Friday night. Every Monday night. Every Wednesday night. Every Friday night. Every Monday night. Every Wednesday night. Every Friday night. God bless.